Right, we're off. The recording is has the recording button has been pressed by David. So there we are. However, before we start, may I just draw your attention to the disclaimer that I know you can see on the screen. As you know, trading and investing can be a very risky business. So please, certainly with trading, please don't ever use money that you cannot afford to lose. Now, the markets are amazing today, as you've probably seen. Huge sell-off. I think the Dow is down. Is it over 1,000 yet, or is it 900, David? I don't know. Let's have a look. Where are we? Oh gosh, it's 1,300. Wow, that is incredible. Well, actually, it isn't incredible, because if you've been coming along regularly, and if those of you who follow me on my blog or social media, etc., you will know this was a post that I wrote on the 3rd of June, which was obviously last week. And we were beginning to notice all sorts of strange things going on in the markets, not least from a VPA perspective. And we'll look at some charts to see, was this all foretold? Not foretold. It sounds like a fortune teller, but was it likely to happen? This correction was going to happen from a VPA perspective, or what was going on in the VIX, and also what was actually going on in the forex market, and in particular with the yen pairs, because as you know, those of you who come along to our forex sessions will know that one of the things that we teach our forex students is the intermarket relationship, cross-market analysis, what are the cross-market relationships, to kind of give us a heads up of what may be happening in whatever instrument or market that we trade. Now, if you are in Forex and you are trading a yen pair, then you look at what is happening in equities, because the yen is one of these currencies that can be both a risk on and a risk off currency. If you're trading the indices, or you're trading stocks, or trading indices and stocks, then we would suggest that you do exactly the same. You look at see what's happening in the Forex market. Is the yen being bought, or is the yen being sold? Very briefly, if the yen is being sold and sold heavily, then you would expect equities to be rising, and vice versa. If the yen is being bought, then you would expect equities to be falling. And we have specialist indicators to help us with this analysis, so we don't have to look at lots and lots of different charts. We have what we call our currency strength indicator here, which basically disassembles the forex market into individual currencies, and we look at this magenta line here, which is the Japanese yen, and we can see here, this is on the hourly chart, that is very much being bought at the moment. And we can see down here, this is the daily chart. This is where it has been selling off, and selling off really strongly, as you would expect, as you know, the indices and stock markets have been rampaging higher, in particular the Nasdaq. It's almost as if it had to get over that 10,000, and you'll often find this before a major correction. There's this sort of burst of euphoria that particularly if it's an index or a stock is at a critical psychological level, it feels it has to get over that line, and then bang, it suddenly pulls back, reverses. Now, there could be all sorts of reasons for that. You also have to say that if you think of the psychology of the market, if you've been an investor, for example, and you bought in at the last market top before the big sell-off, if you were during the pandemic, and by some miracle, you're actually still holding on to your positions, and suddenly you're back at almost where you were, where you got in. What is likely to happen? The chances are you might think, do you know what? I've just dodged a bullet here. I think I'm going to sell out. So there's an awful lot of selling out as well. And what about if you perhaps one of those people who bought at you did time it, you bought when that massive buying climax came in after the big fall, and you thought, right, and you've had a good run, you think, you know what, I'll take my profit and go. So there's all sorts of sort of psychological reasons behind the price action that we have been seeing. But I just want to finish off with the yen, because This is actually a screenshot. It was to do with a blog post that I did at the beginning of the week. And this is the kind of disconnect that we've been seeing really since the 3rd of June. And that is, this is at 8 o'clock, as we see here. This is at 2000 hours, which is 8 o'clock in the evening here in the UK. Now, the indices had a huge update, a really, really good day. This was Monday. And look at the yen pairs. They should have, you know, if this was working properly, market sentiment, they should have been up here, and they weren't. And you've kind of, you know, raises alarm bells, and you think, what's going on? And of course, when we look at the actual charts themselves, and from a VPA perspective, this is why I think just VPA is just fantastic. I know, you know, I would say that anyway, but, and I'm so pleased our students and our VPA scholars out there, for the hundreds and hundreds and thousands of traders and investors who use the methodology, has just, you know, some of the messages we get, they are truly humbling, and I'm just so delighted for anybody who has you know, who uses this, has incorporated it into their trading and investing, because it's the sort of methodology you don't have to abandon anything else. What the volume does, it simply makes everything clearer. It gives you this tremendous insight. Right, now this is the weekly chart of the YM. This is obviously today's, this is what's happening this week, but look at last week. And what I want you to have a look at is, I want you to have a look at these 3 candles going up in succession. They're all rising. You say, oh, that's lovely, rising beautifully. But look at the volume underneath there. Each of these candles, that one's bigger than that one's sort of twice the size of that one. And look at the volume, it's identical. That is a huge anomaly. You know, it just doesn't, it violates, you know, one of the main principles, one of the laws of VPA, which is Wyckoff law of effort and result. You know, you've got the result there, but it's the same amount of effort. So it has to be an anomaly. So that cannot carry on. So at some point, that is going to, you know, potentially you think, it did get through the volume point of control. You think, well, okay, if it is going to pull back, where's it likely to pull back to? And it has actually pulled back to the VPOC, as we can see here. Then we had the VIX, and David can talk about the VIX in a little bit more detail, because I don't actually have the VIX up on any of my screens at the moment. He's got it on the trading view. So can I pass to you on the VIX, yeah. David? So basically, the charts, what was happening in the yen and the VIX as well, put it all together, and something quite sort of momentous was likely to happen. Now, what's the reason for this? We had the Fed yesterday, who basically have, you know, are going to be printing QE, printing money, call it whatever you want, to infinity, to, you know, to support the economy, to, you know, to make sure that we don't go into this depression, you know, and that's what the market, you know, the Fed has given the market everything the market wants, and yet today we've had this major correction. And the reason has been given, a second pandemic wave, the violence that, you know, the violence that we have been seeing in the various cities. Take your pick, but to be honest, this was expected if you knew where to look. I'm just going to pass over to David, because I said he has the VIX charts, and he will give you an explanation of that as well. We will be looking at some live price action. I've got the CAD yen. It's been in a fantastic down move since the US Open. Oil has taken, it's just, you know, it's just cratered today. It's gone down something like 8%. The CAD yen, one of these cross-market relationships, you would expect a strong reaction in the Canadian dollar, because it's very tied to what happens with oil, because Canada is a major oil producer. But just pass over, we'll have a look at that, but let me just pass over to David, because I know he's got the VIX charts.